Hello, you beautiful people. It is November, so naturally, we're taking a look back at what happened in real estate in Ottawa in the month of October. And the year is winding down, but we are still constantly surprised with what's happening. Let's just jump right in. Combined, we sold a total of 1,677 houses, which is much less than we sold in October last year. But all of 2020, at the end of 2020, it was playing catch up with the number of transactions. And you can see the average price of a house has gone up in the month of October to 639.5, call it, from about 550. So a huge increase there of 15.7%. Inventory, okay, has gone down. We were trending upwards on inventory. Now we're trending downwards on inventory. You can see October 21 versus September 21. Even that inventory has gone down. Now, typically we expect the inventory to drop off as we move towards the the fall and the winter, but it's indicative of what's happening in the market here and the changes that are happening. The sales at 1677 and the inventory at 1776 are essentially telling us that we've got just over 1 month's supply, so it's still definitely a seller's market. Year to date combined, and this will be interesting, we're up by 10% in terms of number of transactions, and the average price is up by 22.6. Of course, that number is a little bit interesting because it includes both residential and condo, so really not a full representation of it, but an easy number to track as we move forward. Obviously, 2020 saw a real increased growth towards the second half of the year, and the growth rates are going to fall in 2021 as we compare them back to what happened in 2020, which was the beginning of something crazy. It's this the average price is still going up. Okay, that price is not coming down, and it's really interesting to see that, considering even the fact that the sale numbers are lower. But again, they're lower because we're comparing them back to what happened in 2020, which was just bonkers in the fall. Breaking it down onto the residential side in the month of October, you can see we sold less houses, 1263, which is more in line with what the 5-year average would be, not taking into account 2020. But the average price of a residential property now in Ottawa, it's 716 in the month of October. So again, it's an increase of 18.9%. So that's why I'm saying that the prices are still going up. Inventory is still significantly less. Okay, you can even see not just versus October 2020, but also versus September 2021. The only thing that made the absorption rate even more in 2020 than it is right now, the fact that we've got 1 month of inventory, we had like 2 weeks of inventory because the number of sales were so much higher. But our inventory now is lower than it was last year, but the number of sales isn't as much because people aren't trying to play catch up with the houses they didn't buy at the beginning of 2020 because of the pandemic. They bought their houses at the beginning of 2021. So there's a little bit more regular seasonality that we're finding in the market here. Okay. Year to date on the residential side, we've got an increase of 8.9% more houses sold and an average increase in residential sales of 24.4%. We're trending right to that 25%, which is what I called in the El Predicto at the beginning of the year. Interestingly, the residential prices made a significant jump in the fall 2020, and they're still on the rise as a result of the inventory constraints even in 2021. The market is starting to balance slightly, and we are starting to see some more regular seasonality. But where we're not seeing the crazed bidding wars with prices jumping 100K or more often, but prices still continue to rise. I think people are pricing their houses at more reasonable numbers, and that's why we're not seeing those huge jumps in terms of list price to sell price ratio. The strategy's changed a little bit because I think the buyers are getting wise to it. In the condo world, we actually are seeing an increase in average condo prices October 2021 versus October 20 of 9.6%. And of course, we sold less condos by 13.6%. The inventory is still significantly less. Okay. In October 2020, we had 609 condos. We were starting to see the condo world shift a little bit. Now, again, we're down under that 500 threshold that I've been calling for a couple of years now. So interesting, under 5 weeks of inventory. It's still definitely a seller's market in the condo world. A real interesting change to note, and we'll get into it in a second here in the notes section, is month over month, the condo prices for a 2-story sort of condo have gone down significantly. But we'll get into that in a second. Year to date, average price of a condo up by 16% and number of sales up by 13.9. The reason is we really when you compare 2021 with 2020, we front loaded the sales in 2021 and we backloaded the sales in 2020. So they'll get to sort of a more even point. In terms of number of sales, but when we're comparing month to month, it looks like there's a drastic difference. So like I was saying before, the average price of a condo is 20K less than it was last month. And for a two-story condominium townhouse, like a garden house, it was $35,000 less in October than it was in September. So some real significant changes. If you're thinking about buying a home, you might have a really good opportunity to buy something now as these typical seasonal winter months approach, as opposed to waiting until spring next year. And the reason for that is because we're getting back into the regular seasonality. We're coming out of COVID, hopefully, and moving back towards some regular seasonality. And so if you're thinking about buying, if you're thinking about selling, you're thinking about investing, please, as always, reach out. The team and I at The Real Collective would love to help you go through that process. It's one thing that really gets us excited. And as always, feel free to reach out. You can send a DM, a text message. You can call us at the phone number 1-888-REAL585. And until then, keep it real, Collective.